And there we
Take it
are.
away.
Woohoo! Welcome everybody to the flow. Yay! We are live, homeschool live, that is. I love that name. I got to say that name earlier on my live, and I just feel. You can't. I'm wearing Om on my shirt today too, actually, but the Om symbol. But good day, good morning, good hello, everyone. Today, I didn't let you know this, GP, but I just got the sudden urge to do this today because of the topic, because it is scarcity delusion. I feel like I want to open this one up. We are going to definitely open this up to some more comments throughout the show because there's a lot of energy around this one, even from coaching this morning and just our conversation. And I was like, oh, here we go.
It's your show. You're the producer. I'm just the talent.
You just showing up.
I just read the weather. Yeah.
There you go. Oh, I love it. So, all right. We titled this one Scarcity Delusion because at first my thinking was around money, wealth, abundance, poverty, and all that. But then when we really dove deeper, and you guys will please share your comments on this one, scarcity is so much more. It's status, it's relationship, it's how we view ourselves, how we show up, and how even what we think of others. And I was kind of thinking of this, GP, this morning. I wanted to ask you right off the bat here. Because it's our perception of life. Our life is our perception. Is it us who are we holding others in scarcity if we believe them to be?
Well, ultimately, we're only bound by our own beliefs, right? But when your own view of it is rooted in scarcity, or some kind of an idea you have about how you might get out of it is weak, and you're completely being bombarded constantly with the message of scarcity by the crowd you're in, and by the media, and by everything else, then we do hold ourselves in that, and there are systems in place that do on
Yes.
purpose, right? I mean, the hoarding of wealth or greed is just as much a symptom of the scarcity delusion as is poverty. It's motivated by exactly the same thing. I'm just going to grab as much as I can for me. And I really don't care what happens to anybody else at the expense of anybody, really. It's dog eat dog, right? Survival of the fittest, law of the jungle, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the answer is ultimately no, but it takes a while for somebody to get to the point where there's enough inner strength and conviction that they can turn against the general tide of human thought. And it takes a lot, because that these beliefs operate obviously on the conscious level, but they operate, through the media. It's more subliminal, and just the general level of belief that people have does set up kind of a psychic field.
Yes.
that we all kind of swim in, but we're not aware of, and so all sorts of thoughts would come to us. Even if we were completely disconnected from media, we would still be picking up on the general tenor of belief, energetic beliefs around the world. You can't help it. It's just part of the soup we happen to be living in.
Swimming in the soup of scarcity, because my alliterations.
Got it. Thank you for that alliteration. Yeah.
Well, it's funny you were saying that, because I would like to think that I am not a greedy person. I'd like to think that I am a sharer, and I would give my last crumb of bread and all that. However, it raises question here. I got a little nervous in the last year, and I have stocked up on cat food because I haven't.
Not toilet paper. Not toilet paper. No. Cat food.
Go outside. Yeah. And in my thinking, I thought, oh my gosh, because even when I'm buying it off the shelves, I'm like, ooh, I don't want to take the last of this can because maybe somebody else's cat only eats this can, and now I've taken it. And I thought I should let them know I have it, and they could let me know. And I was like, oh my God, I'm getting way too into this. because their survival And then it can cross over a line of, does it make it wrong or greed when we won't share it? So we can have lots of it, but if we're willing to share it and not hoard it, is that okay?
Well, yeah. Wow. Greed is a subject in and of itself. And I look at it from the perspective that Buddha looked at it, his definition of greed, which is not kind of the, the hedge fund manager and the billionaires going into space, and that sort of thing. It just, I don't know what the word is for it. It's just invidious display, right? Um, what Buddha referred to greed, any desire, any notion that something external to us can bring us happiness and peace is greed.
Right.
So the person who's shopping for the bargains, right? Not the person who's hoarding the toilet paper or the cat food, right? It's all, our entire consumer culture is based on greed. We only think of it in terms of the guys who are, up at the top, or some TV preacher or something like that. But it's something that affects all of us, and it is based on the idea of scarcity, and my own incompleteness. Right? If you look at it from the spiritual perspective and Buddhist perspective, it was simply the idea that I, in and of myself, was incomplete, and therefore needed something external to satisfy me. And the moment I do that, I create the internal environment that will feel as if lack is a real thing, and I'm completely ignorant of the fact that I myself have just created it because of my belief. And that's why the three poisons are ignorance, delusion, and greed.
Right. And we have scarcity delusion right now. And which brings
Yes.
me to the biggest point of this show. And then I would love to open this up because I do want to take in questions from you guys. We just talked about, we've not shifted, but we've brought in the word lack from scarcity. So scarcity is like, hey, we think there's not enough. And I lack it, so I need to have more. But then we've created a brand new, wonderful eat away at your stomach kind of problem, which is I can't lose it. I have to hold on to it. And now I have a fear. I'm overprotecting. I don't want this person to come in. I'm setting boundaries. I'm setting control. I'm sending I'm reprimanding people who are trying to get it from me.
Right.
And
or worse, a reprimand would be nice,
yeah,
better than the artillery.
right. And then that to me, like right now I'm thinking of like, gosh, I wouldn't be able to sleep with any of it. First I can't sleep because I don't have enough, or I think it's going to go away. Then I think I'm going to lose it. Like, oh my gosh, there must be peace here. There must be, but how many places in our lives does that show up? It's not just with it. It's all external. Can it ever show up internally? Will that ever show up internally?
Well, yeah, it's all internal, right? Because the drive to find something external is a belief within you, right? So it all stems from our view of ourselves and our view of the universe, our view of reality. It all stems from that. And whether I'm somebody that is so skilled in a particular way, in a particular culture, that I can get a lot, right? And then the culture can worship me like I'm some kind of hero, when in fact I simply play the game the way it was set up to play, and you didn't, right? And it becomes an endless desire. I mean, it's an insatiable desire, because the truth of the matter is, nothing out there can satisfy. That was the whole point. That was the nature of suffering. You're looking for something for satisfaction that cannot give you satisfaction. And therefore you get something, you get a high for a moment, but then it's still there, and you want to get more and more and more and more, and then you want to hold on to it, right? And hoard it and have more of it. And there's been study after study done on the pathology of the extremely wealthy, and they're less secure about it than you and I are, because the more you have, the more you want, and the more the more you want to hold on, the more fear you have about losing it, right? So you'll have a billionaire who's got 50 billion in the bank, but he loses $1 billion. He wants to kill himself. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's all a matter of distorted perception. And so whether it be, my last can of cat food, right, or it be $1 billion, it's completely internal. The perspective and the meaning that we have given it. Now, obviously, the closer you get to poverty, the more it intersects with the real fear of survival.
Yes.
Whereas it's totally imaginary if you're a billionaire, right? At least within our culture, unless of course the economy collapses, in which case now your billion is worth nothing. And so but you can see it's all coming from the same place.
Yes.
It all has the common origin, which is ignorance of our true nature.
Yes. And when you say about the true nature and then culture, but about the true survival, it leads me to think when little kids, maybe they're entering puberty and they can't go to the movies, and they're like, I will die if I can't go with my friends. Oh my gosh. And they feel this is death to their identity, death to the this external thing that I really have, that this is a scarcity. I'm not allowed. I can only go out once, this or that. And
Yes.
this is a true death to that identity. And this is why I wanted to open this up to everybody else, because scarcity can come even scarcity of like I said, a position in the tribe. It can come as a scarcity of skills in a job. You might lose your job if you become obsolete. All these this scarcity. It's not just wealth and money. I mean, it comes to value. So I'm opening this question to everybody. If somebody would like to ask a question about if you're struggling, if you're suffering with worrying about either maintaining your value. Where's my quote there? Here, value. I still haven't got this camera down. If you're questioning and struggling with suffering, thinking you could lose your value, and if you would like a little boost or have a question about this, because values, scarcity can actually. I love the way GPU talk about the value. Where does value even come from? Is it internal ever, or is it always again external?
Well, it's relative. When you look at it culturally, it's relative. What's important to one culture is meaningless to another. I mean, even our money, if I walk into a grocery store here with euros, right? Doesn't matter how many I have, right?
I don't know.
Because they have no value here, right? And so all of that's relative. Everything we give meaning and value to is relative. The real quest, the spiritual quest, is to find the infinite value, the value that is absolute, that is not relative to anything else. Right? And that's really ultimately what we seek. We want to know that we are inherently valuable. Everybody desires that. And because we don't know that, it's because of that fundamental ignorance. And that fundamental ignorance has created entire cultures based on the assumption of that fundamental ignorance is actually true. Layer upon layer and structure and more complexity, all based on this idea that what is valuable is what the culture says is valuable. And I then have value depending on how well I fit into it. Now, if you look, it depends on the perspective. If you look at, a professional athlete, right, who's making $50 million a year, right? He's got $100 million 3-year contract or something like that. When you take it, put it in the context of a normal kind of community that needs to survive, it has absolutely no value whatsoever. It doesn't contribute anything.
The career.
Right?
The career.
Yeah.
Right. Not
playing basketball. Interesting.
Right.
Yeah, it's very skillful, but it brings nothing, right? So, but what's the value then? Well, it's entertainment, right?
Right.
And because the entertainment can make so much money from advertising, all of those have value. Suddenly, the basketball player is a star, and the school teacher is having to go out and buy pencils and paper for their own students, and they can barely get by themselves. So you can see the value system, right? It's there in black and white. Teachers don't have any value, and professional athletes do.
Yeah.
Which is just, anybody with half a brain would look at it and go, man, that's nuts. That's
We have
crazy.
allowed it though. Why does it perpetuate if
Because our culture is based on money.
right. Yeah, money. I just want to highlight
Period.
that to everybody pulling in here, because I can see some questions coming in about people pleasing, which is finding value in things, but we really have money is a god. We are worshiping it. We need to have.
Money is the central value of this culture. It's even infected Christianity, right? So
Yes.
you got a TV preacher worth $500 million. That's insane. It's obscene. It's blasphemy, is what it is.
Right.
Yeah, but that's there's prosperity preachers and the prosperity gospel and all that. Money is the god. Jesus was right. The love of money is the root of all evil.
The
Not
love
money
of
itself. It's
right.
the love of it, because whatever you love, you value. That called the value. I mean, that's
Right.
what love is.
Yeah.
What we love is what we give the highest value to,
Yes.
right? And in our culture, it is money. Period. I don't care how they try to slice it. Oh, there was a disaster in Nebraska, and the first thing they say is 3 people died, and it caused $50 million in damage. I mean,
Right.
in the same sentence,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can see what the value is, right? And for a lot of them, I think they're forced probably to put money second. I mean, if I'm the insurance agency, that's the first thing I want to know is,
Right.
and if they died, did they have a policy? And somebody is anybody I've insured going to be liable? Are there going to be lawsuits? I mean, that's what they're thinking.
Yes.
Right?
When people do die, they oftentimes people will say, "What's my inheritance?" Or what am I getting?
Yes. Yes.
The
Yeah.
oh, the money. Oh,
but we have to see that it is a value system. It isn't just money. It is our values. It is the means by which we assign value and meaning to everything. Didn't used to be that way, right? I mean, it had its place, but things had, there was more value. There was more in the culture. But over time, it has deteriorated to the point where, particularly in the United States, which is the most extreme about it, it is the only value there is.
Now, how about the people now who are thinking, "Oh my gosh," they're feeling that, okay, money, I shouldn't want money. I shouldn't work with money. How can we have inner reconciliation now? Because right now, a lot of different things in our body are talking to the other going, what should I do? Maybe they haven't been doing what they love to be doing for real, and they are making a lot of money. Should they give it away? Stop it.
Yeah, to me.
Yes.
Yeah, send it. There's the address right below there. Just send it in. Yeah. I'll give you my PayPal account or Zelle or Venmo, whatever. I take all credit cards, right? Well, that's the whole point. We have to come to terms with it. Just because it's become obscene in its application doesn't mean it's inherently bad. But because of the power of that value system, it just infects everything, right? And it's not really possible. Maybe it's possible that there are some places in the middle of nowhere, but there aren't many middles of nowhere anymore, where you can go completely off grid and grow your own food and that sort of thing. But I wouldn't last a week. I was raised near the country, right, out of outside of Chicago. But for my all adult life, I've been a city guy, right? So I just kind of walk next door to get Korean or Thai or whatever I feel like having. The idea of growing my own food, Jesus, I kill every plant I have. It's like
a green thumb you do not have.
if I even drive by a nursery, all the plants start to shake.
We're gonna have to send you over a dehydrator. That's what you're gonna do. Is dehydrate your food and store it.
Yeah, but I mean, I think one of the most amazing things about the time we live in is there is no out. There's no way out. We're going to have to see this through. We're being forced to look at these value systems and dismantle them from the inside.
Yeah.
because the value system of money is destroying the planet at an alarming rate. The last prediction I heard is we have about 60 years left of topsoil.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's it. Then we're done. We are done.
Yeah, you can't replenish it. You can't save it. You
Nope.
can't. Now, if that isn't scarcity, I don't know what is. That's it.
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole idea of scarcity, it is real, right?
Yes.
And we lived with it for millions of years, our entire evolutionary history. Not just us, but every critter before us, right? It was this constant in struggle with the environment to maintain, to be life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because life is a processor of energy, and therefore there's this cycling going on. The earth, without being strained, is a perfect system of constant replenishment, right?
Mm.
It's just miraculous. It's off the chart miraculous. There's just, I don't believe in intelligent design and the creator up there going, what a good job I did. Nothing like that. Just, it's a miracle. It's an absolute miracle. It will actually last forever unless something comes along and stresses it to the point where it doesn't have enough time to reclaim itself, right? And this is the amazing position that humans find themselves in, the arbiter of that. And we will decide whether or not we live or die, and take most everything with us. The earth will recover. It always does.
Yeah. I love that word, replenish. That's
Yeah.
two words, replenish and reclaim. It's a renewed commitment and belief and in support. You talk about money as being a system. So we have a system which we can offer with our beliefs, because we're creating this. And so I want to go back. Where's the question? Okay, wait. We have Mark's question, but I want to go back to people pleasing. Where is it? Can you talk about people pleasing and how it's rooted in fear? To me, that speaks of scarcity of your own value, and what needs to be reconciled. What would need to be asked? What question needs to be asked for somebody who's people pleasing, and it has to be rooted in fear.
Well, of course it is. Yeah. There's the fear that I'm not going to be loved, right? You learned early on that the way to get you needed from the environment was to be completely and totally submitted to it, And so you always pleased your parents, and then you pleased the teachers, and you pleased your friends, and it worked. It was a strategy that worked. You did get your needs met, because if you hadn't, the nervous system would have found another way to do it, or it'd be dead, and you wouldn't be asking the question. I mean, that is the way it works.
Right.
So you're simply the number one scarcity is access to our own selves. We've been cut off from our own souls. That's the scarcity is I don't have access to my own inner resources. I got a huge bank account and I forgot the number.
My pin. Oh no. Oh, that was so good. Oh, how true is that? And when people say, I'd asked you this question yesterday and I was a bit off on it, but that's okay. You rounded me back in. I was like, when people are feeling like, gosh, I just don't feel like myself. It's not so much loss that it's that access that you've cut off for these reasons. So I believe it was Jay, right, that asked that. So I like that. So this number one scarcity is that we've cut off our own access to ourselves. And so we're back to self-inquiry, which is, well, sorry, I'm asking the right question. Who is trying to please people? Is that the question?
Very good.
Oh,
very, very good, grasshopper.
So it's not why. It's not always. It's who is trying to please people.
The why is easy. It was the way you were trained to be. It was a strategy that worked at the time. When you normally express yourself, and Am I the only one hearing an echo?
Yeah, I think so. I don't have an echo. Does anybody else hear an echo?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Because I'm hearing a weird echo, just of me, not of you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you able to handle that one? Eek.
Yeah, I'll deal with it, or it'll stop eventually, or I'll stop. One of the two. No,
An important message.
Oh, Stacy heard the echo, but now it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah, now it's gone. That's weird.
Okay, good.
Yeah, well. What was the question again? Yes. Who is it that's people pleasing? The why. See, what happens is, and this is, it's so amazing the way it works. And I talk about it in the videos. I go into depth into it in the course, of course. We create an identity to go with, to solidify the various behaviors that have arisen in order to keep you safe. Right? So I express myself as a child. My natural exuberance and enthusiasm, which has full access to all my inner resources, not being acceptable to the tribe, puts me in the danger of not surviving. Right? And so that ability to express myself gets hindered and suppressed to the point where it's regarded as dangerous, because it is. Right? Mm-hmm. If I express myself and I get hurt, I'm not going to do that. So what do I do instead? Well, I adapt behaviors that will get me what I need, right? The attention and the care and whatever it is I need, the approval, right? Get all the nice approval, which is what people pleasing is. And you get really good at getting approval, and that's one of the particular strategies. Some people get aggressive and controlling, right? It all depends on what worked for you in your environment when you're little. And then as it develops, what happens is, as it solidifies, is it becomes a sense of identity. So it's no longer a learned behavior. It's me, right?
Right.
Now that me, that behavior, the programmed responses, which is completely robotic, right? There isn't anybody really there any more than, this computer is hearing what I have to say, right? There's nobody there, but there's the sense of identity about it. So it is no longer just something that is happening or some behavior or some reaction that's going on. It is myself. And they become so identified that you can't tell the difference. So now I say, I am a people pleaser. Not true. You are not a people pleaser. Your nervous system has simply adapted itself because it has found the most success it has at getting what it needs from the environment is when it pleases people, right? Which means I get everybody's approval. So I get love, I get attention, I get whatever, even though it's totally unsatisfying, right? Because I know it's bullshit, right? Deep down inside, I know it is. But this is the whole point of self-inquiry, to discover that you are not the patterns of behavior that the nervous system adapted, right? But you became to believe that you were, and therefore got compressed inside this sense of identity, which is also known as the ego.
You make me think of so I think this analogy is right, but I don't know, of a car who now senses when there's somebody in a lane or behind you or beside, and it adjusts to get the result that it needs for your approval to stay alive and driving it. But we think, oh, the car is so smart, it knows, or it's we give it this as much as we give our own,
yes,
systems that check mark. Okay, it did this, it can go on, and it's the behavior or tasks that it did, the skills that it provided, achieved a result, a desirable result, because you're still alive and didn't hit a car. But it's the same, and I see what you're saying. It's we almost need to like pull back from those patterns and what we do, and realize that it's not realized, but do the self-inquiry work to say it's not me to do this.
Yes, we have to sort out what are reactive patterns in the nervous system, what is actually me. And it's not easy, simply because everybody believes that those patterns are them. It is also part of the way the nervous system forms, right? The sense of identity is much a creation of the nervous system as anything else is. I mean, you didn't create it. The you think you are was created by it, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, whoa, the entire, the entire nervous system, GP was not conditioned. GP is the name given to the conditioning. Right?
Right. Yes.
And it's such a powerful insight, but it just kind of blows our minds. It's not the way we're used to thinking. Right?
No.
Our entire world and all of it, including all religions and everything, assume this persona is who I am. And it is not. It's just a mask you got stuck wearing and you haven't learned how to take it off.
I love that you used your name as that example, because women or men who take on the names when they get married, you are now this new person. Here's your new name. Right. And some of us, people who have gone through, I have not, but a ceremony. I am now Star Moon.
Yes.
Queen, something. I know.
That's right.
Lake Lady. So, because
that's right.
We're naming it after we have set this pattern, the system that it's working for. This is so interesting. I like this. Now I'm going to read Mark's question, and it's a little bit jumpy, but that's okay. Mark is asking, do you think there will be a reckoning and a cultural transformation? I'm hoping that's in a positive, but because of, I'm going to link this to scarcity. Do we have to? Because scarcity will eventually come to extinction, or cultural transformation?
Well, there is a reckoning coming, obviously, right? And we're either going to do it ourselves by waking up and beginning to work with life as it is rather than against it. Hence the name of our show, The Flow. Right? Work with the Tao, reconcile ourselves to simply the way things are, rather than this idea that somehow we can just continue to extract resources at just an obscene rate, and it's not going to have any effect. So either we're going to come to see that ourselves with enough critical mass that we reverse our course and change our whole character, or it will all collapse and most of us, if not all of us, will be dead. And so there is a reckoning coming. There is a judgment day ahead. You might say there is an Armageddon.
Yes.
Right. And the word Armageddon just simply means rendezvous. It's a rendezvous with destiny. We have a rendezvous with destiny, and the destiny is either going to be to awaken. I mean, it's going to come down to simply awaken or die. But I'm such a hopeless optimist because I know life is immortal, that you are immortal, and therefore you can't die. So what will die? The dream will die.
Yes.
The false sense of identity must die. But for most people, for everybody, right? Something gets pushed. It's what they refer to it as a dark night of the soul or some crisis moment. It's like this: the ego has to be pushed so far to the wall that it just does not have any more moves.
Yes.
Because even in non-dual teaching, I'm working through non-duality. Everybody's still trying to wake up and hold on to the dreamer. They want to hold on to the ego, right? There's still something there that wants the fruits of awakening, right? But doesn't, everyone wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die.
Yes. I also remember that time, or that time you said it a few times. I love it about waking the dream. Oh, what is it? Darn it.
The guy in the dream doesn't wake up.
Right. The guy in the dream doesn't wake up. I know, that's why I'm going to be so, I love it.
Yeah. Muji puts it beautifully, talking about self-inquiry. He says, the one who starts the inquiry does not finish the inquiry, but is finished by the inquiry.
Oh, yes. And that is perfect for this. But you said, something we must die, something we must die. And we use the word dismantle. It's one of my favorite words, actually, because it feels a little more gentle. Like, let's just dismantle this.
Let's just neatly take it apart and organize it. Yeah.
I like that.
Not slash and burn. Yeah.
Yeah. Dismantle this nicely. And that way you can choose, well, this piece will save, just I'm not ready yet, just to get rid of this. And as we go in, I will read the Facebook users question or comment. I don't think it's a question, by the way. And a question that came up for me is sometimes we think of scarcity. If I have enough skills, if I have enough, or have more, then I'll be okay. But sometimes some people also go the opposite. If I am weak, if I need help, if I'm a victim, people, the tribe will help me. And as soon as I can do it on my own, they'll push me out of the nest, right? So can scarcity also come from a system working for you, that when you come from lack, you are assisted and helped?
Well, victimhood is another identity that because you, oh, woe is me, and you get attention.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's the echo again. It really sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks. Okay. Well, nothing I can do about it because it's not here. It's nothing I've got going on here. Yeah. It's the way it's being transmitted. So, but yes, I mean, if I'm a child and I find that if I get sick, or if the only way I get attention is when I'm in an extreme state, my nervous system will learn to keep me in an extreme state. And if that persists, it will become so much of my identity that it will continue into adulthood, and I will become a victim, and I will seek out victimhood, and I will want to, and I will, oh, woe is me. It'll always be that. And of course I will deny it. I'm not a victim, right? Take care of me, please. Take care of me, please. Yeah, and again, everybody recognize, oh God, a victim, the little smarmy little victim. It's a strategy that works. Period. We have to see it. It's all happening automatically and naturally in your nervous system. The problem is simply identifying with it, not being able to tell the differences as to how you were programmed and who you actually are. The computer can be programmed and it doesn't have any issues with it because there's no consciousness there. It is not a self. It has it's not sentient. We are sentient. There's somebody here, whereas there's nobody in this computer.
For the somebody who's here, who is aware of, I want to take these two opposing identities, a workaholic and a victim. I have no skills. I can't do anything. I'm dumb. I'm sick. I can't, please help me. Or feel sorry for me, maybe, or any of those. I'm poor. Please give to me. To workaholic, I need nothing. I can do everything on my own. Meanwhile, they're working themselves to death. The conscious that's there, that is now witnessing. How was peace arrived at? How to end that conflict? Because if they even if they recognize that is the identity that's working for them, but it doesn't make them feel good or satisfied, how do you start dismantling that?
Well, that is it. Well, first off, there has to be sufficient suffering to warrant the attempt to do it. And the sufficiency, and it has to do with all the current systems that we have in place in the world, right? They don't work anymore. They haven't for a while, right? The current economic structure has utterly failed, and COVID made that plain as could be, right? That when we actually had something that stressed the system, it completely broke down instantly, right? It couldn't survive, and it could only survive good times, right? It takes suffering to make that happen. And individually, we face the same kind of things. My life isn't working. And then I'll try this, and then say, oh, try this. And I may try 100 different things, and it still isn't working. At some point, you go, what the hell is going on? And if that pierces you deeply enough, something inside will open, and the right answer will start to come.
Oh.
Right. But something inside you has to open. Something has to break open. The ego has to yield somewhat, right? Even a tiny bit. And even if there's a crack, whoop, truth is always hanging out outside the door.
Oh, there. All right.
You hear, oh, they're coming to the door. They walk by. Okay. And just sits and waits. And eventually the door they kind of open the door, and boom, in it goes. Right?
I love that. That is so encouraging, by the way. I love that. All
Yes,
right.
we're not alone in this. Yes, I mean, we're deeply loved. The reality, the nature of all of being is pure love. We are just loved and adored, and we don't know how to let it in.
Yeah,
We
it is.
don't.
It is
Yeah.
that. I remember, have to share these stories here. I remember being young and I fought with my mom quite a bit, and it wasn't very nice of me to do so because she was a sick lady, but I did fight with her. And at the end, she would, oh, this poor woman, it breaks my heart still. It's the only regret I have. She used to say, could you not give me a hug? And I was like, no. She said, well, why? I said, because you need the hug. If you just wanted the hug, it would be different. And so I was such a mean kid, but and because I didn't, yeah, it was, I wouldn't have the crack. I didn't want the truth to come in. The truth really was, she just wanted a freaking hug, and I was just gonna, feel the love and everything, but I wasn't ready. I was slam the door on the throat. That's enough of that. But I like that. That if you just like, if the ego would just yield a little bit, just you don't need to stop. You just, it's an amber. It's a amber light. So
Yes, it's the amber light. Yeah, and the workaholic may just take a meditation class or something, right?
yes, yeah,
Right, and that could be just enough of an opening, because they think, oh, I take a meditation and ease some of the stress and I can work harder, right? I mean, that
absolutely.
might just be the only thing, but that may be just enough of an opening for something to begin.
Yes.
The light's getting in, right? Fresh energy is getting in, and it's inevitably going to have an impact. It's going to spread. One of the things I've become aware of is, since COVID, and people are, since COVID, more a huge number of people that before were just okay with their jobs are really consciously unsatisfied with the jobs they have. And you find there's people in like middle management and lower level executives, right? The guys up at the top, the chief executives, the board of directors, they don't really even care what the business is. All they're interested in stock price, right? And positioning and all that kind of stuff. But you get down a little bit, and there's the guys that actually have to deal with stuff, right? With the reality and people's lives and their dissatisfaction, and some woman who's been there for 10 years, and her boyfriend broke up with her, right? And now she's crying at work every day, and right, her productivity has gone down. What do? Fire and replace her? Right? From the point of view of the stock price, yes, that's what you do. You just get rid of her and replace her with somebody who's emotionally competent right now. And if she breaks down, get rid of her and get somebody else. But to anybody else who's at this level, who has a heart, they're going, how can I do that? What can I do? How can I help? Right? And this has actually become quite exacerbated. Right? It's becoming really, really obvious that for the most part, these places have not been human places to live. Now, it takes a disaster like COVID for us to discover that. It takes a disaster like that for us to discover that our systems are completely corrupt and incompetent.
Yes.
Right. But it does bring it about. Not enough yet for us to really transform the whole thing. Right. But that power, that awakening is growing. I mean, it's growing. Look,
Absolutely.
Look at this. We have people listening to this conversation, right?
Yes. Thank you so much. Okay.
That's. I mean, I marvel at that. I get people every week on my satsang.
Absolutely.
That wouldn't have happened 30 years ago. It wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I mean, I talked about this stuff 30 years ago, not like this, right? But it was like, nobody was. Yeah, it wasn't the same. 50 years ago, forget it.
Yeah. The self-inquiry is a whole new thing. Well, a year ago, I just heard the term self-inquiry, and I think I love that the truth is always the truth. There's no start, there's no end. So we all, maybe we always had something going on about the truth in our lives, but we couldn't help it the way we're doing this with self-inquiry. It is so helpful. And in a reconciliation, which I do want to bring that up about the course coming up, because this is an opportunity to really go into these things. Like, oh my gosh, just, I get stuck. I'm like, I got the breakthrough, and then I get it. And then something else comes up and I'm like, darn it, I can't get that again. So, but it just, because it takes time, it takes support, it takes constant not conversation, but do it. Yeah. Inner work, just asking the right question. Because if you ask the wrong question, GP, you can certainly go the wrong way. Like it's another door. The wrong question is another door. So if you say, why am I doing that? Wrong door, guys. So I want to do an invitation because today is Tuesday, and on Q&A day is on Thursday, correct? Yes.
No, Thursday is another live demo day.
Okay.
I hadn't really said today. I was thinking like Friday to just do a Q&A.
Okay. Well, let's go with the demo, because then they can all meet Evan as well. So senior facilitator, teacher for the Inner Reconciliation group, and GP. This is so cool because I've got to sit on the last one. If you guys are thinking, this is good, I'm listening, I'm hearing, I'm reading some comments, or I'm putting some questions in, but if you want to actually do some of this work with GP and Evan and get, back and forth and do some work. This is an exercise. You'll be able to walk through an exercise and have some stuff happen, some stuff revealed. That was really fun that we did the last one. And I would love for you guys to, now they don't need to sign up. They can just simply go to, it's going to be on YouTube. So, just go. We'll put the link in below, or it can do it after, I guess, so they can know where to go.
Oh, just YouTube/GP Walsh. That's
there you go. Super easy. And that's Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's such a benefit. So to be able to actually experience it, and then you think, I would think this is a course that I know I would benefit from. And so that's all coming up. But you guys got to show up for that one. I'm going to just read this Facebook user. If this kind of talk, this wisdom, these topics were covered, and if of interest in the millions, I think we just said of people, humanity, we'd see such a wonderful, powerful momentum for the betterment of the experience of all beings. And
well, it's got to start somewhere. Might as well be here.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I mean, if I thought I was really the guy who created this, I would be so full of myself. Nobody should listen to me. I am the recipient of the awakening. Right?
Yes.
Right? Consciousness is awakening, right? And it's happening all over the place, right? And I'm the recipient of it. Many of you know my story. I wasn't seeking, this path, right? anything but. The only thing I knew was that what I wanted, and I was miserably unhappy. I had no idea why. I didn't know what to do about it. But I was miserable enough that something inside cracked. And of course, truth was waiting there, to say, "Hey, kid, let's talk." And it was just so powerful and overwhelming that I couldn't help but recognize the profundity of it, and it just coming to understand is not just me. And I've been borrowing from a lot of different disciplines and stuff as I've been discovering this whole idea of how conditioning works, how identity gets created, but it was non-dual self-inquiry that actually revealed to me the actual nature of identity, right? Because even those who are aware of conditioning still think of themselves in terms of that personal identity, right? Psychology isn't capable of taking that next step. There's some degree of it in transpersonal psychology, right? But that gap, that misunderstanding of who we are, is the source of all human suffering. It is the cause of all lack. And when that initial schism takes place, where I get cut off from my soul, and that false sense of identity begins to be created, the seed for that is planted. The two things we experience that we did not experience prior to that is the fear of death and the fear of lack. It is inherent in the sense of a separate self. And then it gets magnified because it's an assumption, right? It now enters into everything human beings do.
Right. Yes, because I think I can remember. I don't know if I can, but if we look at children, babies, they're not crying thinking I could die. They're hungry, they need their diaper changed, they need something. They're not thinking, wow, this poop on my bum could hurt me, I could get an infection. No,
No, nothing like that. It's
I hope
pure.
there's
It's
enough
pure.
diapers.
Yeah, yeah. That's right. I hope there's not a diaper shortage. Right.
Right. Right. It's only till later, yes, when we start putting all these. Well, I know it's a silly one almost to bring up, but why do you think parents? Because not everybody went through this, but when they'd say you better eat all the food on your plate because these people are starving, they don't have any, you have some, eat it, use it.
Eat it all.
Right. And first of all, you've put this like, don't be so selfish and wasteful, because you're causing other people suffering if you throw that away, like that. Oh, there's so much wrapped up in that one. But
there's so many messages there.
Yeah, my parents did not do that, thank goodness. But I just, but that I can only like my heart actually aches when I think about that and what a child must have, what they hear at first, and immediately what identity they have to create now to either eat the food because maybe they're full or sick or they don't want to eat it. They're now thinking I've got to turn that off and consume. So this is almost like hoarding or greed or keeping things and not being attachment, perhaps.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
such a delusion.
Yes, it is a delusion, and it distorts our natural appetite.
Yes. Ooh, that was good.
It distorts our own inherent sense of I'm full.
Right.
I have enough. Right, and then it can end up being eating disorders and emotional eating, and that right. It can turn into all sorts of complete distortions, which is simply we have again the disconnect from ourselves that doesn't allow us to simply measure our own the functioning of our own body. Right. You don't sleep when you're tired. You push yourself to exhaustion. You eat too much or you eat too little. Right. Everything gets taken over by the mind, right? Yes. Which has no reference point, right? The body is a reference point. Am I hungry? Do I actually need this food? Is it my body needing this, or am I just wanting something to compensate for something else?
Yes.
Right. And let's not forget that there was a time when food could get scarce. And so this is not something that is just completely made up. It's just been amplified and distorted, in our modern culture. And the fact of the matter is, I think it was Buckminster Fuller who pointed out that it was like in the mid 70s that our technological sophistication had gotten to the point where we could easily feed, clothe, house, educate every man, woman, and child on the planet.
I do believe this. I believe this. I know. I feel like I know it.
So in fact, 50 years ago, the need for scarcity had been ended.
Yes.
And at this point, it persists only as a delusion. And because of that, you have greed and hoarding. So you create lack where in fact there isn't any.
Yes. That was so perfect. And I almost feel like I don't want to go backwards on this to bring it up because that was like a perfect ending. But it was so perfect. But I am going to bring this back because.
But we still have 7 minutes.
Exactly. Well, and this is a good question. If people are thinking, so there's two things that came to mind. To money specifically, jobs, maybe that's what jobs and money. Right now, when people are in this world, in this current climate, thinking nobody's hiring, there's not enough money, everybody is charging more because we have less of, or we're unable to get all like supply demand. Let's go with that's a delusion. Let's just go with that. Okay. It's a delusion. We're being fed that. We're told that right now. Where do we need to go with that to have comfort and peace to move forward?
Well, it's huge because there are some genuine threats to us. Yes. And the awakening that's being experienced is realizing that all of these threats to our well-being are all made by us. And now we have created this monster, right?
Mhm.
And we don't know how to dismantle it. We've basically conjured up the devil, and he's not behaving like he's supposed to.
Right.
He's a very misbehaving devil, right?
Yes.
uh, and we created it, right? It's that simple. Everybody asks, this is the system? No, everything we're experiencing now is man-made, and we could change it in a heartbeat. And in fact, we have the technology to turn all of our problems around in an extremely short time, less than a year.
Yes.
And we
Yes,
would
I
solve crime, all of it, right? All of it. So this puts us in a precarious position, right? If you're the majority of people, you're not even awake to it, right? And so you think that it's Mexicans or it's Muslims, right? It's immigrants. That's the thing in the United States, right? They took my job, right? Um, so not being awake to it, right? Obviously it just perpetuates itself. You're a part of it, and it's very uncomfortable in the early stages when you become one of those who are awake to it, but in fact are completely powerless against it.
Yes.
Right? Because it does have a momentum. But we have to first come to our terms within ourselves of our belief in and our fear of scarcity, right?
Mm.
And when I say that, I'm not just talking about bravado or everything's going to be okay. I mean, obviously, the less belief there is in something, the less you will experience it, right?
Mhm.
But you can't at the same time. You take that to one extreme, you get like the law of attraction, and like I can manifest that for myself. I won't be touched by all of this, right? Which is utter nonsense. Because there's a certain aspect of that is correct, and then there's another aspect in which you are an integral part of the whole and cannot be separated from it, and therefore all lack is your lack, right?
Yes.
It's what's meant when Christ took on the sins of the world. That's what it really means, right? That's the bodhisattva vow. You're taking on the suffering of others because you can transmute it, right? So you will. It is absolutely essential that we see through our delusions, that we see that scarcity is sustained by our belief in scarcity. Not that, I mean, it sounds totally crazy, right? But it is not an objective reality. It is being sustained by our belief that it is an objective reality. And that's the first place, that's the first thing we have to deal with. It's the third bodhisattva practice that was given by Buddha. Um, Perceiving the non-existence of external existence.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, hold on. Perceiving the non-existence of external
existence.
Right.
Nothing exists externally.
Nothing exists externally.
Everything is a projection of the mind, which means I take it back into me, and I don't have to fear anything out there because there isn't anything out there. My belief that it's out there is what's causing me the fear, and it's causing me my experience of it. That's where it starts. That's where the stake gets put in the ground. And how that's going to manifest in your life, I don't know. Will it eradicate everything you see? Will you never ever see scarcity? Well, only sunny days? Of course not. Of course
you
not.
wouldn't want that either.
No, you wouldn't. Yeah.
Trust me, I try and I go there a lot. That sunny side of the street. I'm always on the sunny side of the street. That's for Stacy. But they can sure give it a good try by coming to the demo and and I think it's worth a shot. I think it's worth a shot. Going inward is such a fun. It's so interesting. Like it's amazing. It's amazing. It's like opening this like treasure chest that you found in the attic and going, "Wow, I actually really like what's in this chest. It wasn't all scary and it's helpful."
It's mythologically that's what it's always. There's always that treasure. It's at the bottom of the ocean, or it's deep in the cave, or it's at the top of the mountain, and it's treasure. Right, and then the culture will project on that whatever it values as treasure. It's gold, right, right, or it's the virgin, right? And the virgin is the symbol of your own pure, innocent energy, the reality of you. That's what the Virgin symbolizes, the untouched you.
Right.
And it's always somewhere obscure that you have to cut through the weeds to get there, and on the way you get dragged down to in a pit by a troll, or a dragon picks you up and throws you around, and there's
Yeah.
all of these obstacles. But it's mythologically, what it's doing is it's presenting what we have to go through internally to reclaim the treasure.
Yes.
It isn't just handed to us anymore.
Right.
Right? We have to claim it. And this is what we're all experiencing. This is the universal experience right now. And we have these things to help guide us through the process, so we're not completely lost in the sauce, which our culture is, because it has completely severed all its ties to the past, to all mythology. It's become very reductionist and perfunctory, and it's in the name of the objectivity of science, or money, right? Right. What's the bottom line here? What's the bottom line? Right.
Yeah. Don't
Bottom
forget
line,
all of that.
Yeah.
My worst thing ever to hear was I would share with a good friend or something. Oh, I got this amazing contractor job, and I love my clients so much, or my thing, and then, well, how much are you making? I don't care. I'm not even going to tell you now, because it's not about that. So I would get a little bit thinking. I'm going to just put this out there. If I say this right, it's either Anya or Anja, but I'm going to go with Anya. I would love
Anya.
to,
I think
Anya.
that's correct. Yeah, because
Yes.
she's in Germany.
Yeah, I would love to personally invite you to, if you can make the demonstration and be able to ask that question, Anya, that the scarcity that your experience is, I'm not loved. We can touch on it just for a minute, and then we'll both have to scooch. But that one, that was a big one, because that is a big scarcity. And if I may, GP, this is the most important time to go inward, because I am not loved. If you're judging from the external, you can't win there, right?
Well, yeah, the love is the value, right? I mean, love is value. We love what we value. They're one and the same, right? So the love of money is the valuing of money above everything else, and so when the original, the big scarcity is the sense that I'm not enough. I mean, that's what happens. That's what happens when the sense of a separate self gets created, and we don't feel loved anymore. And you can't feel loved if the real you comes out and it's not allowed and has to go to the basement, and you have to create a false version of yourself. You cannot possibly feel loved. You will always feel something is off. You will never feel as if you're adequate. You'll always feel unlovable, and you'll feel like a phony, and you will be eternally unsatisfied. And that dissatisfaction is suffering. I mean, that's what Buddha said. Suffering is simply discontent, and it will be there until we find the cause of that suffering. And that the cause of that suffering is that original schism that disconnected you from your soul, and in that gap, all the scarcity, all the lack, all the pain, fear, sorrow, death. The Shiva's wheel emerges.
And a beautiful invitation to not only you, Anya, but everyone else. When you reference that about the basement, not coming to the basement, GP has an ebook that is free to everybody. If you go to gpwalsh.com and you sign up for the light letter, which you do want to get anyway, so when all our fun shows are on and all the courses, but you can also get a free copy of that. I'm trying to guess, if I can't remember if it's about 39 or between 40 and 50 pages, but a beautiful book about angels in the basement, and it's such a beautiful read, a helpful read, and I think you would absolutely, if you appreciate that. If you have not yet read it, maybe you have, you could comment or reread it, but let's close off with that. I think this is just such like a massive topic, because it's just everything. It's like you said,
everything.
Number one, scarcity is cutting off or not having access to our own self. And so everything and anything, this is what GP does. This is the work that you do. This is what you show up and help teach people and guide and point people to. This is it's SelfInquiry, And then when we do the self-inquiry, we're like, hey, there's a problem. We need to inner reconciliation.
Yes.
So that's the
Yeah.
work. And you're invited to as many things as we can possibly do. We're here every Tuesday, GP Sat Song every Sunday. But more importantly, we're really trying to build up, invite people, come on over to the demonstrations with Evan and GP on Thursday. Yeah, I'm doing this right. Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And just
Very good.
go to YouTube. GP, I should have a little list here, a little calendar.
Yes.
Any questions at all, just put the comments here. We're going to get them, and then we're going to be able to answer. And hello to everybody who always shows up and joins us. And we don't usually run this much over, but it was worth it. Thank you so much, GP. This is always
Thanks, Lisa. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Until next time.
Okay. Bye-bye.